Hey, my name is Jamey Arent, and today I'm going to show you how to harmonize a C major scale and learn about diatonic chords. In this lesson, we're going to take a C major scale and we're going to harmonize it so we get chords. This series of chords will be all the chords that are diatonic to the key of C, or naturally occur in the key of C. This series of chords will help you understand how music theory works, how chords work, and also help you write songs and understand the songs that you're already playing. So to get started, let's just review the C major scale. There are a lot of different places you can play the C major scale on the guitar neck, but let's go ahead and start at the C that's on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. Here's the C major scale. So the reason we're doing the key of C is the key of C is unique in that there are no sharps and no flats. This is much easier to see on a piano where all the notes of C major are just all the white keys, right? On a piano, the sharps and flats or the accidental notes are the black keys. So it's very easy to visualize. On the guitar, not so much. That's why we're learning it now. So we're going to assign numbers to each of these notes in the C major scale. These numbers are called scale degrees, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we get back to 1, right? That would be 8, but it's really just 1 because it's the note we started on, but an octave higher. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7. Those are the notes of C major scale. So here's how we harmonize these notes of the C major scale to get chords. We're going to be using something called tertian harmony. That's a fancy word. All it means is chords that are built by stacking thirds. So now we're going to start on this C. And what we're going to do by building a chord, we're going to build a major triad. A triad is a 3-note chord built from a root, a third, and a fifth. And those numbers, the root, or the 1, the third, and the fifth, just come from the major scale. So if we look at our C major scale an octave higher, here's C. 1, 2, 3, E is the 3rd note of the scale, F is the 4th, and G is the 5th. So if we take the root, C, the 3rd note of the scale, E, and the 5th note of the scale, G, and we play them together, we get a C major triad. So that's the first chord in our series. So we're just basically playing every other note of the scale. We're playing a C, we're skipping D, we're playing an E, we're skipping an F, we're playing a G. And we get this 3-note chord known as a triad. So what if we jump to the 2nd note of the C major scale, D? I'm playing this D here at the 7th fret of the 3rd string. So what we're going to do is do the same thing using the notes of C major. We're going to start on a D. Now we're going to skip E and play F. Then we're going to skip G and play A. And we get this chord, which is a D minor triad. So once again, we have every other note in the scale. C, E, and G, D, F, and A. So if we follow that same formula with every note of the C major scale, we get this series of triads. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, C major. And all these chords were derived from the same thing. We take a note from the C major scale and we stack it in thirds using notes from the C major scale. On the piano, this is very easy to visualize. You play a note that's a white key, skip a note that's a white key. Play a note that's a white key, skip a note that's a white key, play a note that's a white key. That's very easy to see. So on guitar, we just have to make sure we understand how this concept works and learn these chord shapes. And this is a great chord scale you can practice. What you might notice is that the lowest note of the chord, the root of each chord, is just the C major scale. And we're just stacking thirds from the C major scale. And if you look at how this is written on the staff in standard notation, you'll see each chord is just every other note of the scale. So if we play a note that has the root starting on a line on the staff, the rest of the notes will be on lines. If the bottom note of the chord or the root is in a space, the rest of the notes will be in spaces. But learning this concept is more than just learning a little exercise with the C major scale harmonized. This is actually a tool you can use to understand how songs are written and write your own songs. So let's take a very common chord progression. There are a million songs that have this chord progression. This is what you would call a diatonic chord progression, meaning every one of these chords is in the key of C major. We're taking the first chord, the fifth chord of the series, the sixth chord, and the fourth chord of the series. And when we do that in the key of C major, we get C, G, A minor, and F. Great example of a diatonic chord progression. If you've listened to pop radio anytime in the last 15 years, chances are you've definitely heard a diatonic chord progression. Is it possible to have a chord progression in the key of C with chords that aren't part of this series? Sure, we can absolutely borrow chords from other keys. But right now we're just talking diatonic, meaning all these chords that naturally occur in the key of C major. You would call this chord progression 1, 5, 6, 4 in the key of C, because we're taking the 1 chord, which is major, the 5 chord, which is major, the 6 chord, which is minor, and the 4 chord, which is major. And that's just based on harmonizing the major scale. Another great example of a diatonic chord progression is this old doo-wop chord progression. 1, 6, 4, 5. Or C, A minor, F, G. So you can analyze chord progressions, and when you learn them based on their numbers, you can play them in any other key. So let's add one more note to our triads so we can get seventh chords, right? If we have a 1, skip the 2, a 3, skip the 4, a 5, skip the 6. The next logical note to add to continue our pattern of stacking in thirds would be the 7th. Here's how a C major 7 chord looks in standard notation. And you can see it compared to a triad. We're just stacking one more note. That's a third higher than the 5th degree of the chord. That's the 7th. So if we'd run this through the diatonic series of C major, we get this chord series. C major 7. And quick note for this chord, this is what's called a drop 2 voicing. I'm taking the third of the chord, putting it an octave higher so it's a little easier to play. We have the root, C, the 5th G, the 7th B, and the 3rd E. And we get this series naturally. C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and C major 7. This is a great chord scale to learn as well. And once again, now we're just taking that C major scale, which is existing on our 5th string as the root of the chord, and we're adding a 3rd, a 5th, and a 7th. And when we do that with notes that exist naturally in the C major scale, we get this chord series. Here it is one more time. Of course, you can always play it backwards as a great exercise. So using 7th chords, a great example would be a 2-5-1 in jazz. D minor 7, G7, C major 7. These are all chords that occur naturally in the key of C major. I hope this lesson was helpful and gives you a better understanding of diatonic chord theory and how triads and chords are constructed. Go ahead and try this in a bunch of different keys and think about some of your favorite songs. See if the chords in that song are diatonic or if some of the chords are from outside of the key. Once again, my name is Jamey Arent. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.